The working title of this movie was to have been Sussex on the Gourmet Trail. It was planned months ago, but then Storm Eunice came along and put paid to most of it, with trees down, restaurants and hotels closed, roads impassable and diversions in place. My accommodation also was cancelled until the 11th hour, and what a pity that would have been. So where are we now? Well, we're about where the two trees are south of Tunbridge Wells. And after a rather scary ride down through the storm, we finally arrived at my accommodation, the Granary, a perfect little cottage in the centre of this aerial photograph. The Coes Estate was tucked away in a valley near the village of Rotherfield, and my first sight of the Granary only confirmed that this was indeed a perfect location for a short break in the peace of the Sussex Weald. Trying to find the history of this cottage, indeed the whole estate, was not easy. First impressions were good, with a nice cosy atmosphere for a relaxed stay. Some of the buildings date back to Tudor times, and looking at the beams here, I'm sure that this cottage is one of them. Although it has been modernised and has every conceivable addition to accord with modern living, the beams, some riddled with woodworm in the past, but thankfully now dormant, a light and airy mezzanine floor has been added, with the total luxury of modern plumbing, gone the outside privy, and now we have a lovely shower and the ultimate pleasure of a spa bath to luxuriate in. And to complete the modern interiors, a lovely kitchen equipped with every conceivable device, and very nice to find some new laid eggs and farm milk. Spring, it seems, is just around the corner, with snowdrops and daffodils looking well after weathering the storm. And having private woodlands and a stream to explore was a real treat. And the terraces of shrubs even now are emerging from the winter. And although the Granary had its own pond, a much larger lake within the estate was a temporary home for some Canada geese. And here the colourful hens in their overnight coop, keeping them safe from marauding foxes, no doubt. I expect they were the ones that produced the lovely fresh eggs left at the Granary for breakfast. And after a rather grey and misty start to the day, and an initial glimpse of the estate, the sun then broke through and I was able to walk around the Italianate garden, a prelude to a wonderful day. It would be nice to linger in these gardens a little longer, but the purpose of today was to look around the Ashdown Forest and what West Sussex and the Weald has to offer. This was a highlight of my gourmet trail, and it certainly didn't disappoint. Even the grounds and gardens here have won many an accolade and featured through the seasons on BBC television. Thankfully, Gravetye Manor seems to have escaped most of the ravages of Storm Eunice, and considering the time of the year, late February, we have plenty of colour. The crocuses and daffodils abound on the slopes down towards the lake. The grounds of the old manor are spread over many acres, so a good idea to walk and enjoy, as well as working up an appetite for the starred meal ahead. And now, such a warming welcome, and that's not just the log fire and the comfy fireside chairs. An aperitif of local award-winning gin and quality tonic sets the scene. And how clever the restaurant's design to make one feel as if you're sitting outside in the glorious garden. First arrived the amuse-bouche. This in itself, a small exquisite tartlet and a cheese mousse-filled brioche creation, was almost a course within itself. This was then quickly followed by a basket of warm breads and a selection of 5 different flavoured butters. A wonderful overture to the main event. And first we have the starter, Dorset crab with Bramley apple and coriander. And then on to a diver caught scallop with cauliflower and chicken wing. The main event was a loin of roe venison with beetroot and red chicory, and served on the side with a very miniature shepherd's pie. And a real showstopper to complete a wonderful meal cooked by George Bloggs and the brigade of chefs, the forced rhubarb souffle with stemmed ginger ice cream. And we haven't even mentioned the very fine wines. And now finally to that comfy fireside seat, a relaxing coffee and petit fours complete a wonderful experience in exceptional surroundings. The Ashdown Forest is an area of open heathland occupying an area of outstanding natural beauty in the High Weald. The origins date back to medieval times when it was a hunting forest, and in Tudor times Henry VIII also had a hunting lodge here and courted Anne Boleyn at nearby Hever Castle. The rugged beauty of this forest is very similar to the nearby New Forest, but it is empty of all the verdurer's livestock, which brings another dimension. However, deer do roam freely here. A more modern claim to fame, though, is through the pen of author A. Milne, where he took his son Christopher Robin to play with his friend Winnie the Pooh. Wonderful reading for children, but alas, the reality is somewhat different. Though thousands trek here to see the bridge, where Christopher Robin and his friends played poo sticks under the bridge. However, a booked lunch at the famous Hatch Inn now awaits. This was billed to be simple pub food, but noted for its artisan twists and superb cooking, and it certainly didn't disappoint. A generous starter of wild woodland mushroom soup and hot focaccia bread was enough to satisfy even the biggest of appetites, and followed by homemade Ashdown pork pie with applesauce and green beans. All this was washed down nicely with a pint of Timothy Taylor Landlord beer. And on returning back to base on the Coes Estate, we're just in time to witness one of those little wonders of nature, a new life just born and taking its very first steps into the world. Always a wonderful start to the year, seeing the newborn lambs arrive. With Storm Eunice now having blown itself out, and a great day, a nice glass of wine by an open fire is just the ticket, the forecast for the Weald tomorrow, which is for a heavy frost. The silence of this special place is, as they say, deafening, but for the song of the birds. It's no surprise that the likes of Lisa Marie Presley, only daughter of the king himself, found peace and quiet here, owning the estate for several years. The sheer beauty on this last frosty morning at sunrise all but ended my short break. The Italianate gardens, bathed in the golden light of sunrise, brought another special magic of its own. All that remained was a last breakfast in the Granary that had been my home for a few short days, packing the car and then off to Hastings. Don't you just love the British seaside for a short break? Well, Storm Eunice it seems is having a last blow, but sunshine is forecast for a little later. And right on cue, out comes the sun, and here on the promenade at St Leonard's there are still the grand hotels of a bygone age. And although the paint is peeling on these grand edifices, they still stand proud facing the sea and the pier. The town also boasted 2 funicular railways to link the promenade to the cliff top above. These were powered by water and built at the turn of the century, 1901 that is. But I'm here for a seafood lunch to complete my short break, and the evidence of crab pots and working boats looks promising. And with this final lunch of oysters, squid rings and shell-on prawns, and a line-caught sea bass, my short break was over, with lasting memories of my home from home at the Granary on the Coes Estate, and the warmth of those lovely log fires at the end of the day. And perhaps a return visit to the splendid Granary during the longer days of high summer.